And I would now like to give the floor to Mrs. Nadia Murad, Goodwill Ambassador for the Dignity of Survivors of Human Trafficking and recent Václav Havel Prize and Sakharov Prize winner.
Mr. President, Your Excellency, the Secretary General of the United Nations, ladies and gentlemen, representatives of all nations, I would like to thank the Spanish mission for organizing this session on human trafficking and for inviting me to speak to you today. I would also like to thank the U.S. mission for inviting me to address you for the first time 1 year ago. And I thank the UNODC and its Executive Director, Mr. Yuri, for appointing me Goodwill Ambassador for the Dignity of Survivors of Human Trafficking. When I was here last December, I testified about the crimes of the so-called Islamic State committed against me and against the Yazidi community. I told you of how ISIS attacked my village of Kocho, how they rounded up all the men and killed more than 700 of them in one day, including 6 of my brothers. I told you that my mother was killed along with other older women. And I recounted that I was enslaved by ISIS for sexual slavery, like more than 6,000 other Yazidi women and children. I spoke about my ordeal, how we were both sold and traded like property. I also explained to you how I was raped by ISIS militants multiple times per day. Since I first sat here before you, until now, ISIS' genocidal campaign against Yazidis has continued. Until this moment, over 3,000 Yazidis remain in captivity today. More than 350,000 Yazidis, along with more than 1.5 million refugees, continue to live under difficult conditions in the Kurdistan region of Iraq. In my own family, 2 of my sisters-in-law, 2 nieces, and 2 nephews are still hostages of ISIS. Since last year, my beloved niece Catherine was killed in an explosion as she sought to escape ISIS territory on foot. She was 18 years old. My family has tried to rescue my nephew Malik, now 13 years old. Malik has sometimes called us from captivity, and we found out that he has been held at an ISIS training camp in Raqqa and trained as a child soldier. A few months ago, a rescuer was able to find Malik alone at a bakery in Raqqa. Malik refused to try and escape with the rescuer, saying that Yazidis are infidels who should convert and join ISIS. I was worried sick that he will soon be on the front lines. And another one of my nieces, Nasreen, remains in captivity. She was just 16 years old when she was kidnapped by ISIS. As we sit here having this discussion, she's probably being tortured by ISIS militants 3 times her age. 3 months ago, I came to the United Nations with my lawyer, Amal Clooney. We asked the Security Council to establish an independent body to investigate the crimes committed by ISIS against all Iraqis. We pointed out that the Iraqi government had asked for this, and that it was the least the Council could do in the face of ISIS' systematic atrocities. We said that evidence was disappearing and that time was running out. There has been some progress. The United Kingdom has shown great leadership within the Security Council in making a proposal to establish a global response to the global threat presented by ISIS. including by setting up a mechanism to gather evidence of international crimes committed by ISIS in Iraq. They have spoken about this here at the UN, including just last week at an event at which the Attorney General spoke when Amal and I met with representatives of France, the US, and Russia. They were generally positive about the idea of establishing such a mechanism with the cooperation of the Iraqi government. The Iraqi government has been positive about it as well. And we understand, have been discussing this with the UN since the UN General Assembly high-level week in New York, Baghdad, and London. 6 weeks ago, the Iraqi Minister of Foreign Affairs also committed to work together with the UK to bring into action a campaign led by the UN that would include action to gather and preserve evidence of Daesh crimes. I would like to thank Foreign Minister Jafari and Prime Minister Abadi for voicing support for this initiative. However, time is running out, and the statements of support are not enough. Action is needed. But I don't know what more it will take you to move. I don't understand how there is no court that can prosecute the perpetrators of the crimes against Yazidis or an independent body to investigate them. I don't understand why the corpses of my murdered mother and brothers still lie in mass graves, unprotected and unexamined. I don't understand how ISIS militants can publish evidence of their crimes online and not be arrested. I don't know why, when ISIS has no friends on the council, you still do not move forward. I'm not a diplomat, and my message is not political. My fight is a fight for all Iraqis who have suffered at the hands of ISIS. My cause is that it can never be wrong to collect evidence of genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity, and that it is imperative, if we are not able to stop such crimes, that we at least commit to creating a record of them. So, on behalf of all Iraqis who have suffered at the hands of ISIS, I call on Prime Minister Abadi to send a letter to the UN Security Council asking for the establishment of International Independent Commission for Iraq to investigate and document the crimes committed by ISIS. And I hope that the Council will then act swiftly to create that commission. My fight is a fight for justice, and I know that justice is important to all victims of human trafficking around the world. Yet many survivors who I have met feel abandoned and ignored. Minority groups see themselves as forgotten and left to become a footnote of history. Women and children in war zones are sacrificed instead of being protected. You, the world's most powerful nations, can stop this by ensuring that human traffickers face sanctions for their crimes, by contributing to the UN Voluntary Trust Fund for victims of trafficking in persons, especially women and children, established by the General Assembly to provide critical assistance and support to survivors, and by supporting the establishment of international safe zones, and by taking in refugees who are fleeing brutal wars, as countries like Germany, France, US, Canada, and Australia have now done, or have pledged to do for the Yazidis. For today, I ask you to at least take a first step towards establishing justice for Iraqi and other victims of war, genocide, and human trafficking, so that one day I can face my abusers in a court of law and tell them what they have done, so that other victims of war and terror and those who abuse them learn that this is what the UN is for and this is what the UN does. We have waited long enough. We have waited enough. Thank you.